Salams and welcome. Thank you for joining me in part number 2 in this wonderful book, thought-provoking book, Ruh the Soul's Journey After Death. And as what I mentioned in the previous episode, cemetery, our loved ones are there. But if you look at the cemetery all over the world, so this is not only a discussion about a Muslim's journey. It doesn't matter what your religion is. Every human being one day will die. That's an absolute guarantee. It doesn't matter who you are. Even the most wealthiest person will die. Even the kings will die. Even the presidents will die. And in hospitals, from my experience at medical school and at the hospital, we find even babies do die. Even young children get leukemia. Young children get cancer. So death is part of life. But our body is not the only thing there is. As what I explained in the previous episode, with the body, think of the body as your motor car and the soul is your driver. So your soul is making the decisions. The soul tells you who you are. So now we're going to talk about, we're going to go through this book by the soul's journey after death as a reminder to yourself, and as a reminder to me, and especially for me, for myself, as what I've told you previously, I'm thinking a lot about death recently, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for all of us. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take us into His mercy and nearness to Him and nearness to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ameen, Yaa Rabb-al-Aa'la'meen. Right. So the introduction to this by Duraid and Faiz, Fatoohi, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward Ibn Al Qayyim, Jauziah and others. Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. They ask you concerning the spirit, and this is in Surah Al-Isra, which is chapter number 17 of the Quran, which is verse number 85, and I'm going to quote this verse of the Quran. They asked you concerning the spirit. Say, the spirit is of the command of my Lord. Of knowledge, it is only a little that is communicated to you, O you men. End of quote. The world of the soul is a wonderful world which shows the greatness and the omnipotence and the power and the mercy and the love of the Creator Supreme, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which we also call Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, the most gracious, the most merciful. The soul which inhabits the body, the soul which is inside the body, as what we explained in the previous episode, and let's keep it here as a reminder. Here's the body. When you're born, you just have the body, and then after that, the soul, the red part, is then put inside the body. So your soul is living inside your body, right? So the soul inhabits the body, but the soul is the one making the decisions, right? So the soul which inhabits the body which inhabits in the body of the person during his lifetime. After death, the soul departs to another world in a journey accompanied either by punishment or by heavenly bliss, according to the deeds the person did on earth. So, when you're born, you don't have a soul. At 120 days, a soul is put inside your body. Then for the rest of your life, you have a body and a soul. But the removal when you take out the soul, do you die? Because the soul is removed at the time of death and is dead, isn't it? No. Here's another interesting thing. When you take out your soul, you don't die, isn't it? Well, let me clarify. You don't necessarily die. But this is a bit more complicated, so I'll do it a bit slowly. Because we talked about a body and soul, but there's a third thing I'm going to add here, which is the breath. This is very important, the breath. You see? What is the breath? What is the breath? Breath is what the Creator Supreme Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala breathed into us to give us life. Breath. Give us life. When Adam alayhi salam and Eve, Bibi Hawa, when Adam and Eve were created, they were created in heaven. God took sand and water, out of it He made clay, and out of the clay He made this magnificent human being, 30 trillion cells, with an amazing brain, with 100 billion brain cells known as neurons, with trillions upon trillions of astrocytes and oligodendrocytes to support the neurons. And in addition to that, there's 10 to the 100, 10 to the googol intersynaptic connections where the dendrites are connecting with all the various brain cells. Magnificent connection to make it a whole web in the brain, the most complicated organ in the universe, and is continuously changing depending on our life experiences. And this continuous change is known as neuroplasticity. It is an ever-changing brain. Patterns are shifting. It is an evolving brain. It is a changing brain. The brain that you got today is not the same brain as yesterday. Today's brain is better and is bigger. The brain is changing every single day. Today's brain is not the same as last year's brain. Last year's brain was a smaller brain. This year's brain is a bigger brain. If you're playing the violin, the brain gets bigger. If you're learning a sport, if you're playing soccer, the brain gets bigger. If you watched a beautiful movie and you're now crying in that movie, you watch the Titanic, or you watch The Last of the Mohicans, or you watch Interstellar, or you watch a nice romantic movie or something, a very distressing movie, and then the brain is changing all the time. And when you see someone you recognize, like for example, let us say you're going to a pilgrimage, or even if you're going to a shopping mall, your brain is going like this. Bzz, 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 bzz. You look at something in the window, you're like, hey, look at that dress, and your brain starts firing, right? Because now it's active, it's appealing to what you like. Or if you're looking at people, you'll see thousands of people, the brain will just be bzz, at cruise control. But the minute you see someone you know, maybe it's your husband, maybe it's your wife, maybe it's your best friend, all of us from a distance, you say, hey, I know that person. When you're saying that, hey, I know, inside your brain, the light is going on. The brain is so excited, it's releasing dopamines, it's releasing endorphins, because you're happy to see that person. But if it's someone that you don't like, all of a sudden, the brain goes into a stress mode. It starts releasing cortisol. It starts releasing hormones where you don't feel nice. You start getting stressed. Your heart rate goes high, and you say, I don't want to meet that person. Let me turn quickly. I'll run into the shop and I'll look from the window, and until that person is gone. Where's that person? Hey, is that person gone? Yeah, I don't want to meet that person, man. Whew. That's how the brain works. It's a very powerful thing, right? So, when God in His mercy created Adam and Eve, then when He created this magnificent brain, the kidneys, the whole body, He then breathed into him His spirit. And this is the breath. So we're made up of three things. We're made up of a soul, we're made up of a body, and we're made up of breath. And I will tell you why we are made up of three things. Because the Quran tells us every single night, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes out your soul. But do you die? No. You don't. But every night your soul is taken out. The reason you don't die is because the breath is still there. As long as you are breathing, you're not dead. So we got three things. You got this body, you got the soul, and you got the breath. And this is the divine breath. That's what gives you life. So at the time of death, in the next morning, if you are alive, that means God in His mercy will decide. He will take your soul out, take it on a journey into the dream world, which is a real world. Sometimes you get beautiful dreams. Sometimes you get dreams you'll remember it 10 years later, 20 years later. And the most magnificent dreams, you get the dreams, about whether it's, I don't want to talk about my dreams. So sometimes you get beautiful dreams, you think about it a lot. And sometimes you get terrible dreams and you don't want to think about that as well. But the whole thing about this is that those who are destined to die, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't return their soul to them, and then the breath is also taken away in the middle of the night. Next morning the family will just find the blue part, which is just the dead body, because then the soul and the breath must be removed. But if the soul is removed, you are not yet dead. You are not yet dead, because every night you are dying, and sleep is the sister of death, right? Now at the time of death, what happens? At the time of death, two things happen. You got the body, you got the soul, and you got the breath. So at the time of death, your soul is taken out and your breath is taken out. Once your soul and your breath are taken out, then it is impossible to come back to life. Then no matter how much the doctors do CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, no matter how much they shock you with a defibrillator, they can shock you. They can put a higher pulse. They can put a higher pulse. That person will never ever come back to life again when the breath is taken out and the soul is taken out. But in the middle of the night, God will take out your soul. Your soul is gone into a dream world. You're gone. The soul is not there, but your breath is there. So remember, there's three things, very, very important. So I'm going to stop there because it's a very important concept to remember. Remember, we're made up before we are born, at least when we are born at the time of birth, we only have the body. Think of that, your body as a motor car. Your body is the motor car. Right? Let's make a simple example. Your body is the motor car, your soul is the driver, but this thing can't move without what? Petrol. So think of breath as your petrol. So you need your breath. That's your petrol, your oxygen. So to move your motor car, you need your petrol. And today with electric cars, but you need some sort of power. So think of breath as the power you need to move the body and the soul, to even be able to think, to be able to function. And this also applies to there's a thing about the soul where everyone's record deeds are written, but, and there's another topic we'll talk about it, but there are certain situations where the recording angels don't write anything. When you are young, if you're a child under 5 years, 7 years, or 10 years, some people say under puberty, when you have not yet reached the age of understanding, then the pens don't write anymore. If you have insane person, then the pen don't write anymore. If you're in ICU, if you're in a coma, the pens don't write anymore, because you are not in control of what is happening, right? So in the state of sleep, the pens don't write, because you are not in. When you are sleeping, the soul is not there. So the recording angels, they don't write anything when you are sleeping, right? So please remember, the things only record when you have compass mentors, when you know exactly what you are doing. But please remember, the summary or the lesson for today is that we are made up of a body, a soul, and a breath. And at the time of sleeping every night, the soul is taken out. That's why you get dreams, but you have the body and the breath. That is why you are still alive. Unless the Creator decides you're going to die tonight, then the Creator, when He's taken the soul, He doesn't return your soul, and the angel also then takes your breath away, and it's khalas. In the morning they'll find this guy is dead. Then they'll say, what a peaceful death. He died in his sleep, plus on a Friday. Whoa! So we all wish for death like that. Sometimes some people, while in sijda in the namaz, boom, the soul is gone, right? Then we have, at the time of death, the soul is taken out, and the breath is taken out, and nothing, no machine, no super doctor, nobody in earth will be able to bring that body back to life. Even like today, some wealthy nations are freezing the bodies. They are freezing them in liquid nitrogen, minus 270 degrees. Maybe one day in the future, they will thaw them, they will melt these bodies and bring them back to life. Good luck to you. The rich people are wasting their money, but good luck to them. Allahu Alam, I'm not criticizing anybody. That is the way they believe, that is the way they think. But when the body is dead, when the soul is out, and when the breath is gone, the only thing you are doing, you are just freezing flesh. You are just freezing a piece of meat. That's all that you are doing. But that person is gone forever. Stay well, look after yourself. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Aa'la'meen.